Something metallic is bleeding through space, and it's not from Earth. As the object known as 3E Atlas cuts across the solar system at over 130,000 miles per hour, astronomers detected something that instantly shattered expectations. This wasn't just another icy traveler drifting from a distant star. This was a visitor leaking nearly 10 pounds of pure nickel every single second. Not a random blend of cosmic debris, not a mixture of iron and dust, but refined nickel separated and isolated in a way nature almost never does. What's even more chilling is what's missing. Iron, nickel's eternal sibling, forged together in the nuclear hearts of dying stars, was practically absent. Normally, nickel and iron are inseparable partners, bonded in stellar furnaces, raining down together in meteorites and planetary cores. To see one without the other is like finding a gold bar inside a coal seam. It simply shouldn't exist. The composition was so unnatural, so refined, that some scientists began to whisper the unthinkable. This might not be a comet, and it might not even be natural. And then came the signals. Deep within the data, across different observatories and space-based sensors, faint but deliberate pulses appeared. They weren't random noise, not the usual background chatter of cosmic radiation. They had structure. Patterns that repeated with just enough variation to look intentional. The world of science shifted rapidly. Awe gave way to confusion, and confusion morphed into fear. Because if 3E Atlas isn't a rock, then what is it? The story began on July 1, 2025. From a Chilean surveyed telescope, researchers spotted 3E Atlas, already blazing across the sky at a blistering pace. At first glance, it was thrilling. Only the third confirmed interstellar visitor to our solar system. Scientists expected excitement, perhaps a chance to study materials from a star system beyond our own. But celebration soured when spectral analysis returned. The Very Large Telescope showed that its coma, that glowing halo of evaporating material, wasn't water vapor or frozen carbon. It was leaking pure nickel. Nickel itself isn't rare, but pure nickel, free of iron? That's something else entirely. Separating nickel from iron requires extraordinary industrial processes, smelting, chemical separation, huge amounts of energy. That's the work of metallurgy, not random chemistry. As one Harvard astrophysicist put it bluntly, this isn't a rock, it's engineered. Suddenly, the conversation about 3E Atlas shifted from astronomy to the possibility of technology. The James Webb Space Telescope then sharpened the mystery. Peering into the object's emissions with its unmatched infrared vision, Webb found something astonishing. The ratio of carbon dioxide to water in its coma was nearly 8:1. By comparison, comets in our solar system usually contain less than 5% carbon dioxide. The numbers didn't fit any known recipe for comet formation. 3E Atlas wasn't just chemically odd, it was chemically impossible by natural standards. Its makeup felt deliberate, as though it were assembled rather than born. If its composition raised suspicions, its trajectory lit them on fire. Interstellar objects don't usually play by neat rules. They come screaming in on strange, unpredictable arcs and slingshot back out. But 3E Atlas charted a path that looked chosen. It brushed past Venus, then Mars, then Jupiter in a sequence so statistically improbable that NASA put the odds at less than 1 in 20,000. Even stranger, its orbit was retrograde. Instead of flowing with the planets, it fought against them, like a car driving the wrong way down a one-way street. Its closest pass to the Sun came while hidden behind it, shielded from our best eyes in space. Each twist of its path seemed more like maneuvering than drifting. And if it was maneuvering, then it wasn't a rock. It was a pilot. The signals only deepened suspicion. Not audible sounds, but metallic ratios buried in its emissions. Some researchers began to argue that this was communication, not words, but mathematics. Ratios, patterns, and chemical fingerprints that only a scientifically advanced species would detect. It was the same principle SETI had long dreamed of, that math and chemistry are a universal language. Was the missing iron, the excess CO, even the nickel loss itself, a kind of message? This speculation collided with something even stranger. Several asteroids near 3E Atlas's path began to drift, just slightly, but measurably. Their orbits shifted in ways gravity alone couldn't explain. Scientists called it gravitational whispering, the ability to tug on nearby bodies so faintly that you'd miss it unless you were watching closely. If true, 3E Atlas wasn't just traveling through the system. It was interacting with it. Then came the most unsettling clue of all. Webb's mid-infrared instrument measured internal heat emissions, and they were wrong. Instead of cooling as it moved farther from the sun, the object's core grew warmer. The heat wasn't chaotic. It pulsed, steady and deliberate, like a machine cycling through controlled energy states. First a rhythm of 51.2 minutes, then suddenly shifting to 17.07. That cadence matched the timing of the gravitational whispers. Coincidence? Or coordination? And then the moon answered. NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, circling our moon for over a decade, picked up a bizarre electromagnetic echo from the far side. The signal wasn't random. It mirrored 3E Atlas's frequency. Either the object triggered something buried on the moon, or something there had been waiting to reply. Either possibility suggested the same chilling conclusion: 3E Atlas wasn't arriving. It was reconnecting. After weeks of structured emissions, chemical ratios, heat pulses, and gravitational murmurs, silence. The object went dark. No signals. No nickel. No heat. The timing was uncanny, exactly 1 hour after the lunar echo was recorded. Scientists scrambled. Had it completed its transmission? Gone into stealth mode? The answer didn't matter. Either way, it was deliberate. Eye-driven analysis of earlier signals revealed what many had missed: hidden microbursts buried inside its metallic ratios. When mapped, they formed algorithmic binary streams, digital information disguised as chemistry. This wasn't noise. It was data. 3E Atlas had been speaking all along, but in a medium so advanced we only just learned to notice. That alone would be stunning. But then a connection appeared to a completely different mystery. A fast radio burst, FRB 20201124A, detected years earlier in a galaxy 400 million light-years away, carried almost identical modulation structures. Were they linked? Was there a universal protocol? Or was 3E Atlas simply one node in a far larger network? The implications rattled not just scientists but governments. Defense agencies whispered about the possibility of probes, scouts, or even fleets. Then the cloaking began. Webb's instruments caught distortions in the stars behind 3E Atlas. At first, astronomers thought it was gravitational lensing. But the math didn't fit. The object lacked the mass to bend light that way. Instead, it looked like an active field, bending and twisting light around it. And it wasn't constant. It pulsed. Each pulse matched the hidden microburst. The cloak itself was part of the signal. A signal that seemed to say, "When you look at us, we look back." The final straw came on a global scale. Over a span of 37 seconds, telescopes in Hawaii, Chile, South Africa, Australia, and Antarctica all lost track of 3E Atlas simultaneously. A worldwide sensor blackout. Even satellites glitched. And when vision returned, its trajectory had shifted, not randomly, but by a fraction of a degree, as if it had deliberately adjusted course once we were blind. Soon after, an internal leak described something even worse. A military satellite detected a brief, geometric thermal bloom from the object. A hexagonal pattern, lasting just over a second. Nature doesn't produce perfect symmetry like that. Technology does. Then came Earth's turn. Magnetometers in orbit detected fluctuations in the Van Allen belts as the object aligned with our planet's orbital plane. Seismic sensors in the Indian Ocean recorded ultra-low frequency pulses every 12 minutes, aimed upward rather than outward, waves that some analysts believe were directed at satellites. And then a CubeSat in low Earth orbit malfunctioned, broadcasting a signal it was never programmed to emit. That signal matched the 3E Atlas microburst. In other words, the object had infected one of our satellites and turned it into a relay. What began as an interstellar curiosity leaking nickel had become something else entirely. A system, a probe, a messenger. It had seeded itself into our skies, our oceans, even our moon. 3E Atlas didn't come to visit. It came because it had been here before. It came because it knew where to go. And now, as its signal reverberates across our magnetosphere, we are forced to ask a single, terrifying question. What happens when the reply arrives? If this script made your spine tingle, subscribe to Space Loop and comment below what you think 3E Atlas really is. Because whatever it is, one thing is certain, it's not done with us yet.